I'm going to talk about the perspective of, let's say, industry on the fourth industrial revolution and what industry is doing. Now, as you know, PwC is quite a large firm. There's 135,000 of us worldwide, and we work with a very large number of large and medium-sized organizations who are very concerned about this. So what I'm going to present you today is some of our findings on their reflections and how they're preparing for it, and therefore what are the implications for yourselves as universities to sort of help address those concerns. So we've been studying this for the last few years. There are a number of publications you may or may not have seen. Workforce of the Future, which created our 4 worlds, and those 4 scenarios were featured in the Innovation Challenge competition that some of your students hopefully entered, where we asked the students how they would thrive and survive in any of those 4 worlds. So we've been looking at this for a while. And most recently, we did a survey of HR managers as to what they were doing to prepare for fourth industrial revolution and the impact on their workforce. So all these reports are out there in the public domain. Our purpose as an organization is to build trust in society and solve important problems. And the problem that we've decided as a firm is the most important one to solve, at least for the next 2 years, is this one, is workforce of the future. So it's where we're investing a lot of our time and a lot of our research to try and guide our clients through what we believe is one of the most important problems that society faces. So today I'm going to take you through 3 themes, really. Some highlights from our CEO survey, which is an annual survey we do. This HR manager survey, a little bit on that, and talk to you about our new proposition, which is being launched in the beginning of October, so beginning of this month, which is New World, New Skills, which is how we're going to be very proactively approaching our clients on this problem, and therefore the implications for you as potential collaborators in that proposition. So, just a few headline data points just to set the scene. We use this with our clients just to make them aware of how significant this issue is. And the data sources, you can't quite see them there, but they're all in the presentation that will be sent out to you. But you can see that there's growing concern about the impact of automation on jobs. Every day, certainly in my region, I see headlines around thousands being laid off. And I'll talk to you in a few slides around the impact in Europe, which is really becoming quite serious. Organizations are challenged to deliver productivity as well. So, growth in workforce productivity, despite technology, remains low, and that's a reverse of what we've seen historically. 79% of CEOs in our latest CEO survey were worried about the availability of key skills. Availability of key skills is something we've measured every year, but this year it's up in the top 2. So it's really becoming a major concern. And 46% saying this is the first priority. Now, there's a good side to this, that it's the willingness to learn. And I think we can be skeptical about the workforce's motivation to learn and reskill. But from a few studies that we've looked at, by no means exhaustive, there does seem to be an appetite. People accept that this is needed. And if you look at the cost of reskilling as well, in some markets, if you compare that to the cost of the sort of social cost of laying someone off, this isn't expensive. So these are some of the data points we use with our clients just to focus them a bit on the issue. Sorry, you can't see the heading here. So this is actually the reaction of employers to the impact of skills on growth, right? So basically, we in our survey of those respondents who said they were extremely concerned, we asked them about the impact of that concern, and this is the result. And this one here is quite interesting. 44% are missing our growth targets. Now, we've been working with the European Investment Bank. They are the largest lender, apparently, 72 billion euros lent. Of that, about 28 billion goes to small and medium enterprises. They did a survey this year. 72% of their clients said that their growth was constrained because they couldn't find skills. And in the small to medium enterprise segment, this is really concerning. They are extremely vulnerable. They don't have the large infrastructures that firms like ours have to be able to address those skill gaps. So I think this is a really concerning metric. Now, we asked how ready they were to address this issue. And if you look at and this is across all the different industries, but if you look at the willingness to invest in retraining and upskilling globally, that number's at 46%. It varies a bit across different sectors. Insurance are one of the lowest. Their strategy just seems to be to go and steal people from other insurance companies. But some of the other sectors have got a little bit more of a realistic perspective. So you see hiring from competitors here. A few of them are still planning this strategy. Real estate's another one. But many of the, to look at manufacturing, for instance, is very focused on this. So there is a general concern out there amongst employers around upskilling or the future for talent, and they seem to be willing to invest in it. So our global survey, it was 1,246 executives, 10 sectors, 79 countries. You can't see any of this, but the information is online. So it was quite broad in terms of the industries that it covered. And what it did is it identified 45 specific capabilities that were linked to being well prepared to manage workforce of the future. Now, I'm not an HR consultant. I work mostly in strategy and operations, so I'm not an HR specialist. But the 45 capabilities were put together by HR specialists that are advising companies that are considered to be best in class in terms of addressing this issue. So we then surveyed these executives against those different capabilities. Now, these were the 10 that were considered to be the most critical capabilities for being ready to address the workforce of the future. And interestingly, number one there is that they needed to have the capability of being trusted by society. That was the number one capability essential for attracting and retaining skills, which I think is really, really encouraging. But these are other important considerations now. Work-life balance. We, in our organization, have incredibly flexible work-life balance policies, and we see that throughout our client base as well. Adaptability. I mean, we're quite a conservative organization, but we're now forcing our senior partner to turn up to meetings in jeans. We've got one of the most progressive paternity leave policies. In my team, I have 17 consultants in my team alone. 3 of them are currently on a leave of absence, developing some entrepreneurial interests. And that's fine, and they can go off and they can do that, and we'll have them back, with open arms. This is a very, very radical change that I've seen in our own organization, and it's very much reflected in what other organizations are doing around the world. And I hope that you find this encouraging as well and aligned with the expectations of your students, because it needs to be. But There are also at-risk capabilities. I won't go through all the detail of this, but it varies very much by region. So these are the capabilities where the organizations were least prepared, were doing the least to address these risks. Globally, data-driven decisions, they were not very advanced in using analytical methods for forecasting the impact on the workforce. They're beginning to catch up now, but this was one issue where we felt that they really, could catch up and weren't. You look at Africa, interestingly, from what I've learned this last couple of days, with the issues around data, virtual working. It's just not being used in Africa as much as it is elsewhere, and this is an important characteristic of attracting and retaining talent today. A work-life balance comes up here and there. Interestingly, in North America and the Middle East, it's manageable workloads are the area where they are focused least, and that's a risk area. So still managing that work-life balance in North America. For any of you that have worked there, and I've spent a few years working there, they definitely need help in that space. I think as a sort of new graduate hire, they still only get 2 weeks vacation. The expectations on being online 24/7 is still very much part of the North American working culture. So these are some of the risks that we've identified, and then we're working with clients to help them understand, how to address these risks and catch up with what's considered to be good practice. Some industries more prepared than others. Probably not a surprise that tech, media, and telco are more mature in terms of their ability to deliver on these capabilities than others. Financial services are catching up fast because disruption from technology is really happening fast in financial services. But it does vary across industry. And globally, regionally, as I said, it varies. These are some slides that I used on the impact in the Middle East. Now, online, there are deep dives into other regions that are probably of more interest to you. So this is possibly mostly of interest to John from Birmingham, who does have a campus in the Middle East. But what we did with the survey is then do a deep dive in certain regions and see how they fared, because it is very contextual. In order to address this issue, you have to look at it at a country level. And we found that in the Middle East in particular, where we were lagging in most areas actually, brains and bots in collaboration, and this is something that I'll come on to talk about a bit more, but just understanding how to integrate robotics into a job description, into workplace activities. So the only area where we were actually pretty good was new talent mix. So being a largely importer of talent, we're actually pretty good at doing that. We have quite a diverse workforce. We know how to attract people from all over the world. And because it's a relatively sort of new world, tech in our organizations is quite advanced, but pretty much everything else we were behind. And so this deep dive allowed us to have conversations with major clients in the Middle East around what they needed to do. This is an example of one of the charts, just to give you a sense of how they compared against the global average. This is the sort of the next level down in terms of the questioning that we used. We asked them whether they did this, and that was linked to obviously being best in class. So here, lagging here, in the fact that in the Middle East we have a very short-term perspective. Employers still believe that they can just buy the talent in, not the situation in other markets, but in our market it's still, they have this sort of rather optimistic view that they can just buy talent, so that's a big issue. And then in terms of understanding the impact of robotics in the workplace, still very, very, very far behind. But as I say, all of this is online, and if you're interested in the deep dive in your region, we haven't done them in every region, but I think in the main ones we have. And if you are interested in more data, the data set is available as well, so we're happy to make that available. So what advice are we actually giving employers? I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here. We tell them really to be concerned about flexible talent, to really wake up to the fact that you have to look for a different type of talent these days. And a study I read recently said that 65% of millennials in the US freelance and enjoy freelancing. So we need to prepare for a different type of workforce. So this is this perspective here is the importance versus what were they actually doing about it. As you can see, they're lagging on both of these dimensions here. But this imperative around a more flexible workforce is something that we will advise them on how to change their policies and procedures, recruitment strategies, so that they can appeal more to a more flexible workforce. And another example of advice we often give them is around how to address the challenge and publicly, get your story straight. What can you do and what can't you do? And accept that this is an uncomfortable situation. We know what impact technology has had on jobs so far, but we've got no idea really of the impact it's going to have in the future. So let's be honest about it, and let's prepare people's expectations for that, and just have an honest dialogue. So that's something else that we talk about with our employers quite a bit. Now, this is the zoom in on upskilling. So I mentioned that we've got this new proposition launched this month called New World, New Skills. And this is just a few slides from if you like, the genesis of that proposition. So we've created this New World, New Skills proposition. And effectively, these are the building blocks of it. We're consultants, so we're very good at doing assessment of environments and skill gaps and mismatches, etc. We're great at that. We're pretty good at developing skill strategies. We have a lot of people in our organization that are real experts in this area. We collaborate with people like yourselves to make sure we're giving sound advice. In particular, we focus on inclusion and diversity when we're looking at a future-proof skills strategy. Because diversity and inclusion is one of those capabilities that's quite lagging. Then we lay a cultural foundation. We do cultural analysis, and we look at what they need to change about their culture. And then we get serious. Then we look at actually achieving that upskilling. Once we've identified who needs to be upskilled and in what, we then start to design the upskilling experience. And to me, this is really where the rubber hits the road. This is the last mile. If we don't get this right, all that analysis is just going to frustrate everybody. And this is where there's a huge opportunity for us to collaborate with organizations like yourselves to help us get this right. And then, of course, we do our usual evaluation of ROI and create lots of beautiful charts. So this is the proposition in summary. And as I say, these are the building blocks where I'm encouraging our network to reach out to educators and trainers in their territory and involve them in developing the upskilling solution. We don't want random ad hoc training courses slapped on this problem. We want something that is robust, is evidence-driven, is designed by educators, has clear learning objectives, is measurable. We want something solid here, and I think this is where you can help. This is the genesis of our upskilling New World, New Skills proposition, and this is the European Commission, and you may well be familiar with this. There was a Skills for Industry session in Brussels earlier on this summer, as a result, this problem is really serious in Europe. As I said, if you just look at one sector, automotive, I mean, these numbers are huge. And in Europe, there are thousands of workers impacted by this, and it's happening really, really fast. And they're not able to find the skills that they need to replace these jobs, and it is, as I mentioned, constraining growth. But the business case in Europe is quite compelling. Not the case in every territory, I accept, but for those of you that are based in Europe, I mean, if you look very simplistically at the cost of laying someone off in Europe versus the cost of reintegration compared to approximately 30,000 euros to deliver an upskilling program, which we're doing, you know, there's a compelling business case. So employers are very, I mean, they're reacting very positively to this. And they're looking, and we're saying to them, look, realistically, you can probably retain about 65% of those whose jobs are going to be disrupted. Only 65%. So you've still got to worry about the others, but we can come up with an upskilling program for that 65%. How do we do that? We have a number of analytical tools which are beginning to become more reliable, I would say. This is one, you can't see the screen here at all, but basically what this does is it looks at an example, a typical manufacturing company, let's say it's a packaging company. It looks at, it compares the manpower in that packaging company with the manpower profile of a packaging company in a much more advanced geography. So I showed you that it varies by geography. So in the US, for instance, they're well ahead in integrating automation in some of their sectors. So it looks at that gap and says, look, if you were competitive with that other organization, this is what your manpower profile would look like. And therefore, these are the numbers of people that you're going to have to either upskill or lay off. So we use it as a way of highlighting where the problem lies to get the conversation going around action and what they need to do next. Another tool that we use actually helps with those that proportion of the workforce that they're not able to retain, and it introduces some sort of skills match tools that link CVs to job market, common job markets, identifies key skill gaps that would allow them to be better positioned for a new job, and off they go. So we're doing this with organizations who are realizing, wow, you know, I've got 5,000 people to lay off. Of those 5,000, at least 400, if I provided this little bit of extra training, would be able to be redeployed. So these are some of the conversations we're having. I mean, it's early days, but hopefully it gives you the impression that we're trying to highlight the skills gap as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. But we're not the ones that are going to plug it. We're just making everybody aware of that issue. Now, change tone a little bit and talk to you about our own digital upskilling experience. So I know in teaching and learning, getting your faculty to be more digitally savvy has been a challenge, and it's been really interesting watching some of the presentations this last couple of days, and I was really interested to see the two sort of young faculty members acting almost as accelerators within the universities. We've done the same. I mean, we're a fairly conservative organization. We're advising our clients on the impact of digitization. We need to understand it ourselves. And of course, that wasn't consistent. So this is just the experience in the Middle East, which is where I'm based. There's 5,500 of us. We decided all of us had to be upskilled in 6 months, everybody, right from the graduate that we've just hired to the admin assistant to the crusty senior partner that's been there possibly way too long. Everybody needs to be upskilled. And we took quite a fun approach to it, a little bit of a competitive approach to it. This is the range of things that we were subjected to. We were subjected to our digital accelerators. These were the young and super enthusiastic and well-trained digital accelerators that would just come bounding into your office and sit there and say, can I show you how to do it differently? In a very sort of endearing and non-threatening way. So we like them. I don't like this one so much, the digital fitness app on my iPhone. I'm happy to show anybody through the day. It's a selection of podcasts, little training tutorials on my iPad, on my iPhone, and I have to do, every week I have to do them, and then I get the opportunity to take a little quiz, and then I get points as to how my digital fitness score is improved. And it's a bit hokey, but actually it has made an impact. You know, I've learned about all sorts of things I would have never learned about. I can choose to do it when it suits me, so I typically do it when I'm walking the dogs on a Friday morning. And it gets that competitive spirit going amongst the whole community. And we've all gotten a bit better as a result. So maybe this is something that would be of interest to, whoops, I'm using the wrong ones, of interest to faculty that you're trying to upskill a bit, and I'm happy to share that with you. But yeah, lots of other bits and bobs just to really, really shove it down our throat. I mean, seriously, this is being shoved down our throat every day. I'm getting emails, do this, read that, you know, sign up for this, and I mean, it is a bit heavy going, but it is having an impact. So that's something for reflection. And we are being asked by clients of ours who are in a similar situation, who aren't digitally as savvy as they need to be, whether we can help them do something similar. So we're offering some of these tools and helping them customize them for what really works, what's really important for them to make sure their people understand. So just a couple of parting thoughts. And sort of thank you for being the last speaker, I guess, because I've been able to integrate a bit of what I've learned over the last couple of days in my parting thoughts. For what they're worth, my key takeaways from what I've heard you say and what I think would resonate really well with employers. These are two lists of what are believed to be important skills for the future. Now, there's a lot of lists out there, but I quite like these ones because they highlight things that I see clients needing a lot. One is the ability to design. One of the digital upskilling imperatives we're being given in my job is just to learn how to communicate more prettily, put a nice slide together, get the message across in a more engaging, interactive way. And there's a bit of design thinking in there. You need to be able to understand how to use those tools. What else have we got here that I quite like? Real-world projects and engagements. And this one, academic credit for experience and on-the-job learning. More industry and employer validation of curriculum. I mean, we were talking, I was hammering my poor team for the last couple of days on this one, saying, please, please, please help deal with this lack of transparency and worry that employers have about which courses they should encourage their employees to go on. They know they've got a problem. They know they need to upskill them. But which one's good? You know, last time I looked, there's like 10 data analytics courses. They're all incredibly different. We don't know which ones to recommend. So the whole aspect of quality assurance and accreditation, I think, is a real opportunity for your network. This is something that my mentor, Blair Shepherd, who leads on this New World, New Skills work for us. This is a little quote of his that I quite like. And we hope that that's something that you can help us do, is to move students away from a view of a precise job and think of themselves more as a bundle of capabilities that can be assembled and reassembled and added to over time. I put this up as a parting thought as well because very recently, in August, this was the priorities from the purpose of a corporation signed by the 181 CEOs in the US. Now, when I came through business school, I was always told shareholder value, number one. And 2 years ago, it still was number one. But look where it is now. And I think that's really interesting, that CEOs are shoving that at the bottom, and they're more worried about fairness, ethics, communities, employee investment, and customer value. So I thought that was quite remarkable. So last slide. I like this way of thinking about the sort of upskilling system. And if this works well, then the agency of learners, employers, and providers is nicely balanced. But if you think about where the money lies, it's not nicely balanced. Our learners don't have the funds to invest in their upskilling. Our providers, yourselves, are increasingly cash-strapped to provide that solution. But where is the money? The money is with the employers. And if the money sits with the employers, they're the ones that are going to be driving the solutions, and they are driving the solutions. They're calling us up, they're saying, come in, PwC, help us figure out our talent risk, our skills risk, help us solve this problem now. And so there's an opportunity there, and if education doesn't jump into that gap, then they're taking matters into their own hands, and not doing it very well, in my view. So my key conference takeaways around what's your value proposition to employers and society at large around the fourth industrial revolution. Just my point of view, of course, but I love this word, authenticity. Getting authenticity into the classroom. Taking the students on a bus ride across Africa so they understand and experience those problems firsthand. To me, that's a really important driver of effective learning. This point again around transparency on the value of micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are coming at us like a swarm of bees, and we need to sort them out. So this is something where I think education has a real role to play. The conversations around pathways back from industry to university, I love this phrase. I think it was Greg that mentioned it. But and I also learned that PwC and the University of Melbourne are creating pathways for our Australian employees back to university to deal with some leadership issues. So that's a great initiative, and I'd like to see more of that, not just with us, but with our clients globally. Guiding brains and bots job design from our HR survey, this is one of the biggest risk areas. People don't know how to do this, and it's a very hard question to solve, and I think we need some evidence base here. So to the extent that there's some research going on in this area, or there isn't research going on in this area, I would encourage you to think about exploring this area more and guiding the rest of the world as to how to make this work. What is that appropriate man-machine combination? Graduating future-proof good citizens. I sort of come back to the fact that shareholder values now drop to the list, bottom of the list. We need good citizens. We need citizens. We need employees that understand how to guide us around what it means to be a trusted organization in today's society. We don't necessarily know what that means, and so this sort of sharpness of focus on social responsibility is something I think we need help with. And I heard a lot of discussion around that being a value that universities can bring, and I really support that. And then finally, a quote from Barbara on day one, which I loved, and I think is just such an important mantra of U21. You know, please graduate students who can go out in the world without fear and suspicion. I think that is a great note to end on. I hope you agree, and I hope you can do that. And to the extent that we can collaborate more going forward to address these issues for ourselves and for our clients, I look forward to that opportunity. Thank you.